So I am Ray at Raybeorn on Twitter, and my talk is called "Delivering Happiness and AppSec to Your Developers." Okay, so a little bit about me. So I own a 120-pound dog named Gaius. She's awesome. I'm not really a life coach or a conspiracy theorist, but I hope to be. I worked at Taco Bell for 6 years. I was a teacher assistant at my university, and I worked tech for support for a year at a company called ServiceNow. I'm not sure if any of you guys know them. Also, I was a developer for, I don't know, like 7 years or so, and then I've been in AppSec since 2011. So there's that. But the reason I put the non like the tech support, the customer service stuff that's really what this talk is going to be about. Is building up a security champion program. Not really building it up, but kind of how you interact with developers. So things that I'm probably going to cover. So starting up a security champions program. I'll talk about the high level of building a security champions program, talking about what it's like with my experience of working with developers, dev managers, and also product owners. Okay. So things that you need to build a security champion program. Security champions, buy-in, and the will to live. I mean, as a introvert, it's generally pretty hard for me to want to go out and be social with other people. But I get along just fine. And let's talk about it. Security champions for a second. So how do you get security champions? When I started at the company I currently work at, I was hired I was handed a list of 15 developers that were interested in security at various levels. And I was like, what am I supposed to do with this, right? Like, how, like, great, these guys are interested in security. A lot of them were on the same team. To a little bit about my organization, there's 260 developers, about 40 teams, and we now have 2 AppSec people, me and a fairly new AppSec dude that has about like 12 years of dev experience. So new to AppSec, but not new to technology. So I was handed this list of 15 names, and over the course of 3 years, I have created a very successful security champions program. So a little bit about how I did is went and to all of the managers that I knew that had dev teams. So dev managers, went to every single dev manager and was like, hey, I need you to give me one developer name for your security champions, for the security champion program. I really had no backing. I mean, I had a little bit of backing from my management. They were all in on it, but like the dev managers didn't even know what this was, right? They had no idea. So I just came from a position of authority as the senior AppSec person and was like, hey, you need to do this. And thankfully for me, they just went along with it and didn't really challenge me that much because I didn't really have a leg to stand on at the time. This was a brand new program. I basically, after I got the list, I watched some YouTube videos on like what Adobe does for their security champion program and kind of what Netflix does on their security champion program. I was like, okay, I think I have a good idea, right? Uh, so that's kind of how it started. Was I would just go to different developer managers and say, hey, I need someone from your team to represent to be a security champion. And basically, what is a security champion? It's the point of contact for a particular dev team, and that's really it. Like, um, that is my minimum bar. Is that I have a single person to go to if uh, if I needed to go talk to that team. If there's a vulnerability, I go talk to the security champion. We get on a call or just go to the desk of the person who needs to fix it. Things like that, right? I mean, it's just the point of contact for the team. They're not uh, they're not required to be anything more special. Some are. Some go above and beyond this minimum bar. But uh, I'm happy if they're just the point of contact. Truthfully, uh, devs have a full time job that does not it involves security, but uh, all development should be involving security. But this is just a little extra, right? So this is kind of how what I do. So how I how I'm running my security champion programs. I'm having monthly one-on-ones with the developers and teams that are more mature. I meet with them quarterly. I don't meet it with them every month, and it depends really on what they're working on and how confident I am in the team's abilities and their results. Really, like if they have findings in our scanners, then they meet with me monthly. If the teams are doing good, they kind of they get more leeway. They don't have to see me as often, but usually it's the other way around. Like usually the teams that don't need to meet with me are the ones like I'm very comfortable with them because they're the ones that whenever they have a problem, they come to me all the time, right? Uh, which is super nice. So monthly one-on-ones they work. What I do in the monthly one-on-ones, I generally start off with some general chit chat, things like that. Uh, I'd ask them, what did you guys work on? What are you working on? What are you planning to work on? Those are the three questions that I care about. If anything sounds kind of like I need to investigate into it, I will ask more probing questions and generally ask if they can send me some documentation or something on whatever program that I need more information on, whatever application that they're building or feature that they're building. Uh, the devs generally tend to be pretty responsive. On top of that, I throw monthly lunch and learns. So from February to November, the first year I started this program, I every month I did a lunch and learn on a different topic of the OWASP top 10. And then the second year, uh, I did it on proactive controls. So um, there's a lot of free content out there that you can make into these small 30-minute talks. It's better if you provide lunch. Uh, my first year, I did not have the budget. I still was getting somewhere between 20 and 30 developers out of 260 developers. So that I think that was pretty good. Um, Penetration testing. So security champions, we offer a 2.5 day course that they can take. We bring in an twice a year. We bring in an outside vendor that comes and teaches our developers. And I the course is something I can definitely teach, but I'm going to suggest that having an outside vendor do it. We use a local pen testing company uh, that comes in uh, twice a year and does puts on this course for us, and it seems to be going very well. The developers ask a lot of questions. After the developers take this training, I actually there is generally a huge uptick on engagement from developers that have taken the training versus developers who have not taken this training. And it's just basic OWASP top 10. Here's how you hack things type of training. It's a lot of fun, but it gives some developers hands-on experience, which I hope that they appreciate. And then the next thing I do is I work where the developers work. So infosec is in my building is kind of in a corner somewhere. I generally take my laptop and go sit at an empty desk by developers. Uh, I stop and chat with them. I make sure that I'm doing everything I can to be visible, really. And the way I built my security champions program is that it is the basis of my uh, it is the basis of my application security program. So, and this was because there was when I started it, there was one of me and many developers, and I could not scale. I I didn't have the time to build out all this cool technology that I'm starting to get built out because I now have another resource that uh, we can start building tools. I would still like one or two more resources that are basically dedicated to basically security tooling. But I went in and told my manager, I'm like, hey, the security program is my number one. Everything else, my projects that I'm doing, like they may get pushed back a quarter because my number one job is to make sure developers are getting what they need. Uh, and that's happened a couple times. I don't particularly like it, but I've never missed anything from. Uh, I've never had to like push it back or cancel anything too long. Everything still gets done. It just gets done a little bit later because I'm always willing to take questions from the developers. Uh, Also, embrace your quality and QA teams, your SStats. These guys and girls, right, are your biggest allies. They they want the same thing as you. They may not know it, but what they want is good code. And I mean, good, well-tested code is also secure code. So make sure you're making friends with them. I go once a quarter. The QA team that I generally work with throws a happy hour every so often, and I get invited to that. And I suggest getting to know your devs, getting to know your QA people, getting to know the product people, right? Um, like on a more personal level, it generally helps out a lot when you're trying to get them to do uh, projects that may take time away from other things that they actually want to do. I mean, everyone wants to build a secure product, but like features make money. Uh, Sometimes security does not. Sometimes security is generally a cost center, and but we will get into other places where security can actually help you make money in a little bit. Okay. Okay. Support from project management is and project and product management and dev management is super important. Uh, so one of the uh, I mean, developers don't get to control what they're always working on. So buy-in from these guys, and this was actually one of the mistakes I made early on was I went full on grassroots with the developers, and now I'm backpedaling and getting going to the product teams, the product owners, and making them security champions as well. Uh, and I find that with the product owners, sometimes these security features can help sales of the tools. Uh, for example, we were talking about like uh, the industry that I'm in am in is kind of backwards at times. So the fact that we have multi-factor auth in some of our products uh, is a big differentiator between our products and similar products. Uh, and salespeople can, if you teach them how, they can tout that, right? They can say, hey, we care about your security so much, we put in 2FA. What does our competitor have? Uh, and in this economy and like in this marketplace, that stuff actually works. Like people see breaches and they don't want their data being breached. Um, so really quick, this is like the main point that I want to make is let's talk about good customer service. So I see the Security Champions program and application security as a customer service role. And this is why I kind of listed all my customer service experience at the beginning was like uh is because I think that this is what made my program so successful is that I treat them as if they are my customers because they are my customers. So what constitutes good customer service, right? Uh, the problem was resolved quickly. Uh, the person who helped me was nice. Like this is the same thing everyone looks at when looking at customer service. Um, and your devs, when you interact with them, you do not want to put a bad taste in their mouth because then they will just not talk to you. And it's very easy for them to not talk to you when there's one of you and 260 of them. Uh, it, so the problem was not resolved in one interaction, or if you're passing it around, like passing the buck to a different, like the network team or something like that. Uh, Personalize your service, help customers help themselves, and keep your word. Okay, but let's talk about the problem was not resolved in one interaction and no passing around to multiple people. So a lot of the times the devs will come to me with problems with our proxy or a firewall issue or something that has nothing to do with application security. But know what? They see me as the security guy because the other uh, members of the security don't work with them on such a personal level. So I usually get to see, or like I get to see things that aren't even security related. It's like, hey, this doesn't work. This for whatever reason. Now, there's a problem on the network. So like I actually go out of my way and make sure that I'm the only person that they need to talk to for 90% of cases, where I'll make sure that I'll go talk to the network team and figure out, hey, here's what the dev needs to do, right? Uh, or I'll put in like change management requests for them on their behalf, just so they don't have to do it. And it's really crappy work, truthfully, to do that, but uh, it it builds trust in you, where they come to you and they see you as someone that's really willing to help them. Uh, and it goes to this point of help developers with things that are not security. I generally have helped developers with just issues that they've had while programming. I was a developer for 7 years, so I I know quite a bit about development. So when I'm code reviewing stuff, if I see something that's kind of like, "What are you doing here?" but it has nothing to do with security, I'll actually make a comment and be like, "Hey, maybe try this instead." Uh, and then they appreciate the feedback. And it also gives me a chance to show that I know what the hell I'm talking about as far as just regular development. Um, so how is this working for me? So amazing. A month ago, I gave a talk about threat modeling to a group of developers. By 2 weeks later, I had 4 teams that were not in that meeting ask me that I've never talked to about threat modeling, ask me to start to help them threat model their applications. I just rolled out threat modeling earlier this year, so this is a brand new concept for my work. As far as AppSec is related, we do have network threat modeling and things like that. But uh, like the outreach that I get, where it may seem like 1,000 little fires, is worth it, because I have developers coming to me with issues that are actual issues, and I do have developers coming to me with non-security related issues that they may think are security related issues, but I see every opportunity as a way to educate the developers. So know it. Every time that I I see developers learning from this, so they're starting to think more and more about security in their everyday work, and that is really the goal of my program. Is like AppSec. Uh, uh, President Beef had a really great talk, and it's on YouTube somewhere, right? He said, I can't remember his name right now, but he said that AppSec should disappear, right? And it should disappear by going into uh, the developers' normal workflows. And ultimately, I'm doing that. A lot of it is educational, and a lot of the developers just don't have that education. But this gives me a chance to help educate the developers. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much all I have. Basically, good customer service is super important. Smile when you're on the phone with developers; they can hear it in your voice. Um, and like treat treat them better than you want to be treated, right? I mean, like, it's really the point. You're there. If you want them to come back to you, make them want to come back to you. Make them want to interact with you. Uh, yeah, Justin Collins. Thank you, Frank. Uh, so yeah, so uh, by putting your best foot forward, you're going to get a lot more interaction uh, from the developers, and it may seem like a pain at time, but just bear through it, because it will eventually bear fruit. So, yep, that's pretty much all I have. If you have any questions, just hit me up, Raybeorn, on Twitter. Uh, but yeah, remember, great customer service is the thing you have to do, especially if you may not be able to do all the cool tech things you want to do. So that is all I have. Thank you very much. And the next talk will be starting in about 5 minutes, and it will be the last talk of the day. Thanks.